Welcome back to the channel where we take dense books that make you feel guilty for not reading them and turn them into audio that makes you feel smarter while you fold your laundry. Today, we are diving into a book that basically explains why some people thrive when they fail and why others curl up into a ball and weep when they make a minor typo in an email. We are talking about Mindset, the New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. Now, before we get into the meat of this, let me ask you a question. Have you ever met someone who is terrified of trying anything new because they might look stupid? You know the type. They stick to what they know, they refuse to play Pictionary because they claim they cannot draw, and they act like being naturally good at something is the only thing that matters. Or maybe, and be honest here, that person is you. If it is, do not worry because we're going to fix that today, or at least we're going to diagnose it so you can fix it later. This book is essentially about one massive idea that splits the human population into two distinct camps. It's not about introverts versus extroverts, or people who like pineapple on pizza versus people who are wrong. It's about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. It sounds like self-help jargon, but stick with me because this is actually the operating system for your entire brain. So, let's break this down into the first big lesson, which I like to call defining the two mentalities without sounding like a textbook. Imagine you're playing a video game. In one corner, we have the fixed mindset player. This player thinks their character stats are locked in at birth. If they spawn with low strength or low intelligence, they think that's it, game over. They believe their qualities are carved in stone. They have a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character, and that's that. Because they think their traits are fixed, they spend their entire life trying to prove to everyone else that they have a winning hand. They're obsessed with looking smart. They avoid challenges because if they try a hard level and lose, it proves they are not a gamer. It defines them. They don't say, "I lost the game." They say, "I am a loser." In the other corner, we have the growth mindset player. This person treats life like an RPG, where you can grind for experience points. They believe that their basic qualities are things they can cultivate through their efforts. Although people may differ in every which way in their initial talents and aptitudes and interests or temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. To the growth mindset person, a failure is not a permanent status symbol. It's just a signal that they need to level up. They don't care about looking smart, they care about becoming smart. Here's a modern analogy to make this stick. Think of the fixed mindset like a selfie on Instagram. It's static, it's filtered, it's designed to look perfect, and if it doesn't get enough likes, you delete it in shame. The growth mindset is like a live stream. It's messy, it's happening in real time, things go wrong, the lighting changes, but the content keeps going and gets better the longer you stream. Now let's move on to the second big concept, which I like to call the effort paradox. In our culture, we have this weird obsession with things being effortless. We love the genius who solves the equation on the napkin in 3 seconds. We love the athlete who barely trains but dominates the field. We love the natural. The fixed mindset worships this idea. To them, effort is a bad word. If you have to try hard, it means you're not naturally good. If you have to study for 3 weeks to pass the test, it means you're not a genius. So, what do? They stop trying. Because if you try hard and you fail, you have no excuses left. But if you don't try and you fail, you can always say, "Well, I didn't really care anyway." It's the ultimate defense mechanism for the fragile ego. The growth mindset flips this completely. They believe that effort is the thing that makes you smart or talented. It's the gym for your brain. You don't go to the gym and look at the weights and say, "Well, I'm not naturally strong, so I guess I'll leave." You lift the heavy things until you become strong. Think of it like dating. The fixed mindset person believes in the Hollywood soulmate myth. They think relationships should be perfect instantly, with zero friction. If they get into one argument, they think, "Well, we're not compatible," and they break up. They want the finished product without the assembly. The growth mindset person knows that a relationship is like IKEA furniture. It comes in a flat box with a million pieces and confusing instructions. You have to build it. You might sweat, you might swear, you might put a shelf on backwards, but eventually you build something sturdy. Effort is what gives the relationship value. It's not a sign that the relationship is doomed.
This brings us to the third lesson, which is all about how we handle failure. Carol Dweck tells some brutal stories about people with fixed mindsets who essentially let one failure define their entire existence. There are tennis players who lose one match and spend the next decade making excuses about the sun being in their eyes or the clay being too slippery. For the fixed mindset, failure is an identity. It's a tattoo on your forehead that says imposter. But for the growth mindset, failure is just data. It's information. It's simply the universe telling you that your current strategy is trash and you need a new one. Let's use a GPS analogy here because everyone understands getting lost. Imagine you're driving and you miss your exit. If you have a fixed mindset, you pull the car over, scream at the steering wheel, punch the dashboard, and conclude that you are a terrible driver who deserves to walk everywhere for the rest of eternity. You might even refuse to drive ever again because the shame is too great. If you have a growth mindset, you are just the GPS. You miss the exit, and the voice in your head says, recalculating. That's it. You don't cry, you don't have an existential crisis, you just look for the next U-turn. You learned that the exit sign was hidden behind a tree, so next time you will look closer. Failure isn't the end of the road, it's just a detour. Before we get to the next point, which is arguably the most important one for anyone who interacts with other humans, I need you to interact with me for a second. This algorithm I'm battling is a total fixed mindset entity. It judges me based on immediate numbers, so help me teach it a lesson about growth by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. It tells the robots that we are learning and growing together. Also, I have a question for you to answer in the comments. What is something you quit because you weren't immediately good at it? Was it guitar, French, cooking, coding? Let me know down below. I want to see a graveyard of abandoned hobbies in the comments section so we can all feel better about ourselves. All right, let's get back to it. The fourth lesson is a trap that almost all of us have fallen into, especially if you were called a gifted child or if you're a parent or a manager. It's the praise trap. We think we're doing people a favor when we tell them, you're so smart or you're so talented. We think we're building their self-esteem, but we're actually sabotaging them. When you praise someone's intelligence, you're praising a fixed trait. You're telling them, I value you because you have this magical, invisible quality. So what happens? The next time they face a hard problem, they panic. They think, if I can't solve this, then I am not smart anymore and I will lose the praise. So they choose easier tasks to keep the label of smart. They become risk-averse. They stop trying because they're terrified of losing their status. Instead of praising the person, we need to praise the process. Don't say, you are a math genius, Kevin. Say, I really like how you tried 3 different strategies to solve that problem until you got it right. Don't say, you're a natural artist. Say, I can tell you spent a lot of time on the shading in this drawing and it really paid off. Here's the analogy. Imagine you're a boss. You have an employee named Kevin. Kevin closes a huge deal. If you tell Kevin you're a born salesman, Kevin, you're a shark. Kevin is going to feel great for 5 minutes, but next quarter, if he's struggling, he won't ask for help because sharks don't ask for help. He'll hide his numbers, he'll lie, he'll fudge the reports because he has to maintain the shark image. But if you tell Kevin, great job on that deal, I noticed you did a ton of research on the client's background and your follow-up emails were really timely. You're reinforcing the behavior, not the person. Kevin goes, oh, doing research and following up works. I should do that again. It's the difference between complimenting someone's outfit versus complimenting their body. One is a choice they made, the other is just genetics. Compliment the choices. Compliment the grind. Now let's slide into Lesson 5, which covers business and leadership because the fixed mindset is responsible for some of the biggest corporate disasters in history. Dweck talks a lot about the genius with 1,000 helpers. This is the CEO who thinks they're the smartest person in the room. They don't want a team, they want minions. They want people to execute their brilliant vision without question. The classic example is Enron. Remember them? The energy company that imploded in a spectacular ball of fraud? The culture at Enron was obsessed with talent. They hired the guys with the fanciest degrees and they pit them against each other. If you didn't perform, you were fired. It was a culture of looking smart rather than being honest. Nobody could admit they didn't understand something because that would mean they weren't a genius. So they just faked it until the whole company collapsed. Contrast that with a growth mindset leader. These are the leaders who are constantly asking questions. They admit when they're wrong. They surround themselves with people who are smarter than them in specific areas, and they actually listen to them. Think of it like the captain of a ship. The fixed mindset captain is standing on the bow screaming, "I am the greatest sailor who ever lived. This ship is unsinkable because I am driving it." Meanwhile, there's an iceberg right ahead. The crew sees the iceberg, but they're afraid to tell the captain because the last guy who corrected the captain got thrown overboard. So they hit the iceberg and everyone sinks.
The growth mindset captain says, "Hey, I am pretty good at steering, but I cannot see everything. You guys in the crow's nest, let me know if you see any ice." When they shout iceberg, the captain says, "Good catch, thank you," and turns the wheel. If you are a leader, or if you ever want to be one, you have to kill the ego that says you need to know everything. You do not need to be the encyclopedia. You need to be the search engine. You just need to know how to find the answers. Lesson number 6 is about interpersonal relationships, specifically dealing with conflict. We touched on this with the IKEA analogy, but let's go deeper. In a fixed mindset, you believe people are who they are and they cannot change. So if your partner does something that annoys you, you think, well, they're just a selfish person. You assign a permanent label to a temporary action. This leads to contempt. You start mind reading. You think, if they loved me, they would know why I'm mad. That is fixed mindset garbage. Nobody is a mind reader, not even the mentalist you saw at the chaotic company holiday party. The growth mindset approaches conflict as a problem to be solved, not a judgment on character. It's the difference between saying, "You're a slob," and saying, "Hey, when you leave your socks on the counter, it makes it hard for me to cook dinner. Can we work on a system for the laundry?" It's less dramatic, I know. It's way more fun to scream, "You're ruining my life with your socks!" But if you actually want to stay together, you have to adopt the growth mindset that says we are both works in progress. And finally, let's hit lesson number 7, which is the most practical tool in the whole book. It is the power of the word yet. This is a technique Dweck saw in a high school in Chicago. To graduate, students had to pass a certain number of courses. If they didn't pass a course, instead of getting a grade of fail or F, they got the grade not yet. Think about how brilliant that is. If you get an F, it says you're finished. You failed. It's over. If you get a not yet, it implies that you are on a trajectory. It implies that success is coming, it just hasn't arrived. It gives you a path forward. You can use this in your own self-talk, starting right now. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at public speaking," say, "I'm not good at public speaking yet." Instead of saying, "I don't understand how to invest money," say, "I don't understand how to invest money yet." It sounds like a cheesy affirmation, but it actually rewires the brain. It bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It keeps the door open. The fixed mindset slams the door and locks it. The growth mindset leaves it cracked open, just enough for you to squeeze through. It's like downloading a massive file on 1990s dial-up internet. You're at 5% complete. You don't scream at the computer and say, "This file is a failure." You just wait. You let it load. You are currently loading. You are buffering. You are not broken. You are just not finished downloading yet. So, let's wrap this up and put a bow on it. The main takeaway from Carol Dweck's work is not that you need to be positive all the time. It's not about blinding optimism. It's about believing that you can change. The fixed mindset creates a world where you have to constantly prove yourself. Every situation is a courtroom where you are on trial. Will I look smart? Will I look successful? Will I look like a winner? It's exhausting. It's a hamster wheel of anxiety. The growth mindset creates a world where you have to improve yourself. It's not about proving, it's about moving. If you catch yourself saying, "I'm just not a math person," or "I'm just not creative," or "I'm just not good with people," I want you to visualize a giant red buzzer going off. That's your fixed mindset trying to keep you safe in a tiny little box.
Step out of the box. Embrace the cringe of being a beginner. Here is my final piece of advice for you. Be willing to be bad at something long enough to get good at it. Whatever it is you're avoiding because you're afraid of looking stupid, go do it. Go be the worst dancer in the salsa class. Go write the terrible first draft of that novel. Go ask the dumb question in the meeting. Because the guy who looks cool standing on the sidelines refusing to play, he stays on the sidelines forever. The person stumbling around on the field covered in mud and looking ridiculous, they're the one who eventually scores the goal. Be in the mud. Thank you so much for listening. If this script helped you shift your mindset from "I'm tired" to "I'm getting ready to conquer," make sure you hit that like button. Seriously, it helps more than you know. Don't forget to answer the question in the comments about the hobby you quit too soon. I'll see you in the next one. Keep growing.